Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a fantasy movie review and I'll be having a look at the 2013 movie, The Snow Queen. So there's actually been a few movies called The Snow Queen, and this one is a kind of a B-movie fantasy slash sci-fi film. And what you have here is essentially two stories running concurrently. One kind of set in the kind of past of a kind of, I guess, medieval sort of fantasy realm, and the other, I'm guessing, sort of some point in the near future. And the plot is basically there's essentially a being called the Snow Queen who looks a little bit like the witch from the Lion Witch and the Wardrobe, and she's just kind of this evil presence. Don't know where she comes from, don't really know anything about her, but she feeds off love, and she basically looks for young couples who are in love and feeds off them somehow. We're not exactly told what exactly that means or what it kind of looks like, but she feeds off love. And in the kind of like the medieval sort of section, she basically kidnaps this knight and his sort of girlfriend, I suppose, ultimately sort of tries to go on a quest to free him and get her vengeance. And in the kind of the more sort of futuristic side, there's basically a team of scientists, I guess, of studying in the sort of same era, some kind of anomaly. They kind of run into this kind of futuristic soldier in this kind of quite cool looking body armor, and of course the very attractive model-looking scientist falls for the soldier, and they come across obviously the White Queen, or sorry, the Snow Queen and her kind of monstrous minions, and ultimately try and stop her. Now, this is an interesting movie because there's a few things it does well, but it has some really fundamental things that are kind of very poor. So, first thing I would say that in kind of a positive, the actual locations of this movie and kind of some of the sort of the background and the kind of filming locations are absolutely beautiful, and they're all pretty much set on this kind of, I think it's somewhere in California, really pretty landscape, so it's very visually lovely to look at. And there's some interesting design work here in regards to some of the characters as well. I mean, you have you have kind of a sort of medieval knight in the kind of in the sort of past section, and kind of almost like space marine looking armour in the kind of more futuristic summon. And plus there's some interesting monster designs too. Basically the kind of Snow Queen summons a variety of different kind of creatures to sort of ultimately defend her. And the actual prosthetics that are used aren't too bad on that one. All the cast are very, very attractive, but unfortunately one of the major criticisms here is they are really bad actors, and some of the kind of the visual cues that they give and the kind of dialogue is extremely poor, and it's just it's actually almost laughable to a point, I have to say. And the other main criticism is that there's virtually no plot in this movie. I mean, it's essentially a group of people kind of wandering around a snowy forest, kind of looking for a Snow Queen, and that's pretty much it. There's very little character development, next to nothing about any of these sort of characters. So it's really hard film to kind of tell you about the plot, because there's virtually none. There's not even a lot of dialogue in this movie. There's such sort of lots of scenes where there's kind of lingering shots of people sort of wandering through this kind of pretty forest. And I'm thinking the filmmakers kind of guessed it would look very very kind of visually attractive, and it does. There's no denying that, but unfortunately it doesn't make for a particularly compelling story. I mean, there's some germs of some good ideas here, but when you kind of come down to it, the medieval section is really irrelevant because it doesn't have any real tie into, I guess, the main story, which is the kind of the more futuristic story. I suppose that in regards to sort of the split, the kind of medieval story is probably about 35% maybe of the story, and the kind of the futuristic story is maybe about 65%. So I guess the kind of the more modern story is meant to be the A story, if you like. But when it comes down to it, the medieval story, and it has nothing to do with the kind of the main story. It's only the kind of the antagonist, which is the same, but other than that, it's not any connection. So bit of a strange choice to put it in there in the first place. I mean, I can only think maybe that was filmed later to try and pad out the running time, but I'm only spitballing here, I don't really know for sure. So it's an interesting film. It's one of these cases where it's style over substance, unfortunately. And while it looks very pretty, there's not much meat on the bones. So I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 10. It's an interesting film to look at, and as I say, visually it's exciting, great, costumes and stuff like that for a relatively low budget, but a story, not great. 4.5 out of 10. What did you think of it? Have you seen it? Let me know. Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.